Well, I grew up in the Bronx. The first part of my life actually started in Harlem. So from Harlem to the Bronx with my grandparents. I have very few memories of growing up in the Bronx. I mean, up in Harlem, rather. It's very sporadic and jumping around because there was so many things going on and I was so young. But I mean, this sounds crazy, but I remember the first time I peed on a tree was in Harlem. My dad we were walking down the street. He's like, "Hey, you're a boy. You don't have to run to the bathroom. You go here and you pee on the tree." And that's one of the experiences I had. I remember buying crabs on 145th Street from the famous crab lady who sold crabs on the corner. I remember the smells but I also remember the abandoned buildings.
How old were you when you were living in Harlem?
I would say 3, 4, 5 around that time. But my memory is so strong. I remember the park across the street from my parents' building. I remember the smell of things that I now know are drugs. You know what I mean? Because when you're young, what's that weird smell?
Talking about like crack burning?
Crack burning, or burning different liquids that I didn't really know what they were.
When I remember.
But now I remember when they're paving streets, it always kind of strikes me as weird. And also another smell that used to freak me out as kids was markers, because a lot of kids would love to smell the markers, but it gave me just like a weird feeling because it reminded me of home in ways that no other kid would really understand unless they were going through that.
Right. So you moved to the Bronx when you were young.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing where my mom just didn't want to take care of me and my brother at the time. She was going through a lot. My dad, now that I know these things, he was going through a lot as well, coming from Vietnam. She dropped me and my brother at Mom Bernadette's house and said, I'm going to get some milk. I'll be right back. And she just never came back for us.
How old were you?
I think we were 4 or 5. Wow, so I was like 4 or 5. My brother was even younger. He was maybe like 2 or 3.
And so she dropped you at a relative's in the Bronx, went out to get milk.
And never came back.
She probably had a fight with the cow or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I thought she had to find her own cow. I was like, where's this cow in Budapest?
Yeah.
But she never came back. And my aunt was 21 at the time, and she was just married herself, trying to have her own family. And she wasn't ready to take care of 2 kids.
21-year-old.
Yeah, so she kept us there for a little while. And then me and my brother Tyrone got separated. He went with my Aunt Denise, and I went with my grandparents. And then we were separated, I think, for about a year or 2 years. And it's funny because when you're young, when you separate kids who are young, they literally will forget the other kid. Because you're trying to build a relationship. So for a year and a half, I totally forgot that I had a brother. I was this solo child, and then I remember him coming back into my life.
How'd that work? Did he come back to live with you when you were 7?
My Aunt Denise couldn't handle taking care of Tyrone by herself. She wasn't making enough money. So she brought us back. And not only that, they thought that both brothers, we needed to be together. So they put us together at my grandparents' house. And then my grandparents were getting money off the system from us. And then we would go to school from there.
So let me ask you this. So your dad and your mom weren't in your lives at all?
They were, but they chose drugs over wanting to be directly in our lives.